Dori Owczarzak. And our conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Dori, how'd I do this time?
Wonderful.
Hey, thanks. We're talking food safety with you. You're an expert in this field, and so you are appropriate for us to speak with this morning, and especially in this corona age. But as I said in setting up this segment with Jack a couple of moments ago, this food safety should be a priority anytime, shouldn't it?
You got it. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And what is true today is really the same messages that we teach every day in regards to safe food handling and keeping your kitchen clean at home.
So Jack and I were talking a couple of moments ago, and he said he watched a video where the guy was washing his fruit with soap and water. Is that what we're supposed to be doing?
I was surprised to hear that. We have some great materials from the university that make it clear that the only thing that we recommend for washing produce is water, and if you want to do a super job, then go ahead and use warm water, but we don't ever encourage the use of soap when washing produce. It's not safe to consume what's left behind from the soap, so again, water is what we encourage, and that is important now and always to do your best effort to remove anything that's on the surface. But yeah, water will do the job.
All right, take me through the basics of food safety in your kitchen. Let's start before we start cooking.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing that you want to know is the difference between cleaning and sanitizing, and it's important to know the difference, and that just really knowing that they're not the same thing. Both are important to help prevent the spread of harmful germs, but cleaning, it's removing any germs or dirt or surface impurities from the surface of objects. Cleaning, it works by using soap or a detergent and physically removing germs from the surface. This doesn't necessarily kill any germs, but by removing them, it lowers the numbers and the risk of spreading any infection. Mm-hmm. So the next step is sanitizing. This is how you would lower the number of germs. I mean, typically in food safety, we talk about never sanitizing without cleaning first. So it's important to do that cleaning step with soap and water, and then the second step being to use something to sanitize. And most often, the recipe that we share for that is the solution of a tablespoon of bleach to a gallon of water, and that's really the concentration that will do the job to remove any pathogens, including viruses.
Well, one of the things that people will do, though, is they'll say, okay, with a tablespoon in a gallon is the recommended formula. I'm going to make it stronger. I'm going to make it 2 or 3 tablespoons or a half a cup or whatever it happens to be, but that's not necessary.
Oh, yeah, you're right, and we see that and hear about it all the time. But really, the concentration of a tablespoon of bleach to a gallon of water puts you at about 50 parts per million, and that's the effective dose to clean food contact surfaces, and it really will do the job, but then also you're protecting yourself by using any additional bleach to that. What you leave behind could actually do more harm than good, so it's important to keep it at a safe concentration.
So those are the surfaces that the food will touch. What about our hands?
Yeah, sure. So great point. So we look at what effective hand washing looks like and how to wash your hands, and then we can chat a little bit about when to wash your hands. But really, there's 5 key steps, and those include wetting your hands with warm running water and applying soap, and then rubbing your hands together to make a good lather and scrub them well, making sure that you wash the backs of your hands, between your fingers, under your fingernails, continuing the rubbing of your hands for 20 seconds. So, we hear all kinds of things about this, but maybe as long as it takes to sing Happy Birthday twice, something like that, just making sure that you're thoroughly washing your hands. And then rinse your hands well under running water. And then the last step is worth discussing as well, but drying your hands with either a clean cloth or a paper towel. And when people say clean cloth, it wouldn't make sense to reuse a kitchen towel. I mean, there's been studies that just show what they find when people have a common dish towel in their kitchen that they might use to dry their hands, and really what is left behind on that towel for the next person to pick up. So I could be criticized for maybe using more paper towels than my fair share, but when you look at the opportunity to catch what's on your hands and throw it away and not leave it on a common towel, then again, the rule is either clean towel, which how many clean towels do you have on hand, or using a single-use disposable paper towel after hand washing.
So yesterday, Dori, I'm making a meatloaf.
Okay, right.
And there are a lot of ingredients go into meatloaf. You've got your breadcrumbs, you got your onion, you got your celery. You have the eggs. You have all these different ingredients, and each time you add an ingredient, should I be washing my hands every time I add an ingredient? For instance, I put eggs in and then I move on to the next thing. Should I be washing my hand between ingredients?
Okay, so I know you even when you were chatting earlier with the gentleman before I joined the call, I heard you talking about that. Like our hands are going to be raw if we
Yeah.
wash our hands at every point that we even think about. So I want you to know that 65% of people do not wash their hands before starting to prepare food in the
Oh,
kitchen.
my.
So just the fact that we're having this conversation kind of brings it to light. So we definitely recommend washing hands prior to food preparation, and then those points which we can look at in between. So we look at it. There's a term in safe food handling, potentially hazardous foods, like foods that are identified to have the potential to cause foodborne illness. And so when I think of meatloaf, I obviously think of the raw meat, and I think of the eggs for sure. And so when you touch those key ingredients, then it absolutely would make sense to stop what you're doing and wash your hands, because you have the potential to cross-contaminate, to carry the germs from that food item to whatever else you're touching. So you have to certainly pay attention. We have a project at Penn State Extension where we're incorporating food safety into more of our recipes that we share to kind of identify those key steps throughout a recipe, so that we're not doing it more often than we need to, or less often, or missing those key opportunities. So.
Yeah, and of course that was my meatloaf yesterday, but we think of surfaces and chicken is a big one. We hear about this all the time, about how much bacteria is left on a surface after you put raw chicken on it, or any raw meat, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So there's a big campaign from the Center for Disease Control, USDA, to encourage people to stop washing chicken. I guess it's like cultural, or people have learned it in their families, passed the tradition down. But the idea of washing chicken before it's cooked, and they clearly show that all that happens is they're splashing the juice from the raw chicken all over their sink and then their kitchen surfaces. And so if they're not cleaning up after that, they certainly are doing way more harm than ever any good that even could have ever came from it in the first place. So you just have to kind of look at the chicken as having the potential to cross-contaminate, and then avoiding things like washing it for sure, and then looking at it otherwise. You talk about making meatloaf or chicken. I feel like even at this moment in time, making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, where you would look at all of the touch points. You look at all the touch points in your kitchen, like if I'm in the drawer, then I'm touching the drawer handle, and I'm going to the cupboard, and I'm touching the cupboard, and I'm, and then I'm about to touch this food hands-on. And I think that one of the key messages at this time is to look at 4 key points, and one is to washing your hands frequently like we had talked about, but the other is cleaning and sanitizing the surfaces and paying attention to those touch points like doorknobs, drawer pulls, and even with that, our cell phones. If you touch your cell phone when you're making a recipe, or to turn on the music, or whatever that might mean, 49% of people don't even recognize that their phone would be a point of cross contact, and then 35% of people don't wash their hands after touching it. I might have those statistics reversed. I could double check them, but nonetheless, just even recognizing those touch points in your kitchen as well.
That's such a great point, because a lot of us, people will get their recipes right off of their phone, and they're sitting there scrolling right along, and that phone has been everywhere.
Right. So I think of my phone almost like you were talking about the egg in the meatloaf, that once I touch that I too have to do my work and wash my hands before I get back to work.
Yeah. There are so many issues, Dori. I'm glad we have you on 2 days, because there's so much more to talk about. As we wrap it up here today, resources, where can folks find more? We'll repeat it tomorrow, but where can people find more about food safety and about what you are able to teach them?
Oh, yeah, sure. So Penn State Extension website has a lot of key resources on home food safety, but so does fightback.org. So, the 4 key messages are clean, separate, cook, and chill. Maybe we can talk more about that tomorrow, but they have all of the basics of home food safety on that website as well.
All right. Well, you keep those in mind, those 4 points, because I'll forget them by tomorrow, okay?
Will do.
Dori, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it. Look forward to tomorrow.
Great. Good to be with you. Thank you.
Bye now. There you go. She's Dori Owczarzak. Dori